G'day and welcome to the Game Day Squad NRL Fantasy Show. I'm Stu, that's Dill, and we're the Fantasy Bros. We're back again, partnering with Game Day Squad to bring you all you need to know to succeed in GDS Rugby League this season. It's Wednesday, so you know what that means. Team List Tuesday has already dropped, and it's time to take a deep dive into our round 25 GDS squads. There's only 3 rounds to go, but there's still plenty to play for each week, with leaderboards and prize cards still far from being finalised. Boards are changing every week as well. Dill, another big for the Fantasy Bros, as well as the newly crowned Classic Cup champion. But how did you end up in round 24 before we get to the results of that Classic Cup final?
Yeah, g'day Stu, g'day viewers and listeners following along on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and then our Spotify as well, catching up on everything round 25. Round 24, a couple of poor results from me across the board, a couple of silly choices and some last-minute pivots didn't help the scores. What it did show me, though, was that I did have a down game in Classic, but I still moved up the leaderboard on the seasonal leaderboard there. I'm now clearly entrenched in the top 10 battle for a prize card, noting that even though I'm ranked about 17th at the moment, there are a number of coaches ahead of me who are also in other competitions winning prize cards. So it's anyone's game. And I'm pretty sure the way I've worked out is that even the 20th ranked player at the moment in Classic is not even needing a prize card. So 21st, I'm not sure who that is at the moment, but you could be in the prize card realm, which is awesome to see as well. Mate, how did you end up in round 24? We saw a few nice finishes from you the week before. Did you continue that?
No, unfortunately not. It was a massive scoring week. There were some huge scores out there, weren't there? It just meant I didn't quite find the right pods to catapult me into those top 10s. So just an 11th and a 13th across starter and challenger were my 2 best finishes for the week. But yeah, just like you, still firmly entrenched in that prize card territory, and a pretty early pick for me at the moment if I can hang on for those final few weeks. So yeah, just the 3 rounds left. I think I'll be playing fairly safe in challenger because that's my main comp at the moment, and I might go a little bit risky and go for a few pods and try to win some weeklies in the last couple of weeks. And the beauty about GDS is that anyone can even sign up this week and still have a chance at winning those weekly prizes. Just quickly, mate, some other results throughout the week. Big shout out to a friend of the show, Tenders, or Ganners, as he's known. He moved into first place in Contender, and I know he spends a lot of time listening to you and me dribble on about players, and it seems to be working for him. And he's sitting there nicely at the top of the Contender competition.
And he has joined us there to let us know that he praises us. You lads have almost single-handedly got me to the number 1 spot there. So good on you, Ganners. Well done so far, mate. Hopefully you hold on to that. Good on you. Thanks for joining us.
And also big shout out to Gardy. We had a couple of words on the show last week from Gardy. He couldn't join us live on the show, unfortunately. We did have Jax join us, but Gardy took out that Classic Cup title. There was a bit of banter thrown out over the Discord across the weekend, and teams weren't revealed until the very last match. But Gardy got the chocolates there, and good on him. The king of the pods has reigned supreme. We've actually got a bit of a, what do we call it?
A curse, maybe?
Yeah.
A bit of hoodoo?
A live show curse or a live show hoodoo. We had, obviously, JT join us for the Starter Cup Grand Final against you. JT went down in that one, and you got the win. We had Jax join us last week for the Classic Cup Final. He went down as well. So our special guests don't have a very good in cup finals. So I wonder if we're going to get anyone accept our invitation for the next Cup Grand Final. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we still get a few special guests on throughout the last few weeks and potentially maybe into our final series as well. And that's an important thing to recognise. We only have 3 rounds left with the regular season, but we have plenty of fantasy football or fantasy rugby league for those still interested. If you haven't signed up yet, you can do so using the promo code FBRL25. Head on over to the app or onto the website, Game Day Squad. You'll get those 3 9-player common packs, and you never know, you might get yourself a really good card, particularly for the final series. Although there hasn't been too much said about the final series in Game Day Squad, I know it's on everyone's minds, and a few people are starting to gear up for that as well. So good opportunity to get involved and have a bit of fun and learn the ropes before heading into next season. As well as that, we've got plenty of other competitions. I know that Mel and Sif were in here earlier before the show started discussing EPL and the kickoff to the football over on GameDay squad there. So there's another opportunity to get involved. And then we have the Big Bash coming up later in the year as well, kicking off in December. So there's plenty of fantasy sport for those people that might miss out on the NRL. Look, as always, you can see that the Fantasy Bros, as well as our viewers and listeners, continue to have success across a range of competitions. So you don't want to miss anything that we have a chat about, whether it's our expert tips, whether it's our pods, whether it's our information about who to start or who to sit. Make sure that you are joining us each and every Wednesday night, subscribing to the Fantasy Bros AU YouTube channel, as well as our TikTok and Instagram, as well as Spotify as well. If you can't make the live show, we do publish it over on Spotify on a Thursday morning. So just search at Fantasy Bros AU across all platforms.
And if you can do us a favor, just drop a quick like or subscribe on that YouTube channel as well as Spotify. That'll be awesome. We're trying to get to that 100 mark. Mel keeps updating where we currently are. She might do a quick check for us again shortly. But that 100K, that 100K total, the triple figure total would be fantastic. And road to 100K once we hit 100 in total.
We might have to. I know Mel was hitting me up the other day about some potential prizes for all of our subscribers over on YouTube. So we might have to put our heads together and come up with something and announce that so we can get a few more subscribes there. If we ever hit 100K, you just wait and see what we've got to offer as some prizes. All righty, let's jump into our squad, shall we, mate? Bit of an interesting week this week. We've got the Sharks on the bye. So usually our first off the rank is Blake Brayley, but we're going to have to look elsewhere. Is there anyone in particular you're looking at, or are you still tossing up a few different options?
There we go, mate. Just quickly, 96 according to Melissa there. So 4 of you. There are 6 of you currently watching on YouTube. If you haven't yet pressed that subscribe button, just quickly do that for us now. And then Mel will check toward the end of the show and see if we've hit that magic 100. Yeah, mate, no Blake Brayley. Look, his dominance at the hooker position seemed to continue week in, week out. And I even said a few weeks ago, look, there's not many other options here, and we might have to look at him during the bye week. But thankfully, Harry Grant has risen above the rest, and he's certainly putting his hand up as a pretty easy selection in this position. That's caused us plenty of headaches, particularly in that sort of first half of the season before Blake Brayley really started to take off. Really important game for the Storm this weekend. You know, Harry Grant's gone to a new level without Jerome Hughes there, and the Storm have had some really tough games over the past couple of months and past couple of weeks, and it doesn't get any easier with the matchup against the Dogs. And this match is really important because if the Storm can win this one, that'll put them 2 wins ahead of the Dogs, and they've got a far superior for and against, which means they'll all but lock in that top 2 spot, and Craig Bellamy can probably look at resting a few of his stars leading into that finals campaign. So, look, they'll have their pen circled around this match as a really important one in terms of their future hopes. And if they have a hiccup here against the Dogs, then it's going to be a little bit tougher for them at the back end of the season. So, a really important game. And in those really important games, we know the blokes like Cam Munster and particularly Harry Grant certainly rise up. So, I'm expecting Harry Grant to get through his base, to get through his 50 points in base and maybe find a couple of attacking stats and probably even get a really nice score that Brayley's been getting over the last couple of weeks as well. So, yeah, looking really excited to finally play someone different, and I'm expecting some big things for Harry Grant. You going the same way?
Yeah, I'm leaning the same way at the moment. The concern for me always with Harry Grant is his missed tackle count. And I think the last 2 weeks he's had it up around 9. I think the last 3 weeks, 10. So, yeah, I'm just a little bit concerned about that. Obviously, we lose quite a few points through that missed tackles, and it really negates any of his tackle breaks that he does make, although that is quite small and he's only averaging 1 of those tackle breaks per game, but he's averaging 4 missed tackles per game. So it's a significant number of points that he's throwing away that we're really not getting in our side. But yeah, like you said, his attacking upside and what he's doing for the team without Hughes there, I think is super important. And you've probably just got to look past whether you like the bloke or not. I know quite a few comments have been thrown around the last couple of weeks about Harry Grant and his acting skills. But we've just got to move past what he does on the field to make sure his team wins and just focus on some of those stats there. If you are looking for a potential option, I know Damien Cook might not be a bad selection. Obviously, you look at his numbers purely from last week and you think, yeah, this bloke is back in my side for sure. But you've got to look at the context of that game. And unfortunately, the Dragons lost 3 of their forwards in the first about 15 minutes to HIAs, etc. So, the team did really well to to really only have the couple of subs on the field. Tyrell Sloan was activated as the 18th man as well. And they really managed that game quite well against the Warriors all the way up to the end. But look, the benefit of that was that Cookie played 80 minutes, and he actually played 80 minutes the week before as well. And he made a massive 60 tackles in that game last week. And compared to someone like Harry Grant, he only missed one tackle out of 61, which is unreal. The bench makeup is pretty similar as well for the Dragons. They've got Little, obviously, that comes off the bench and plays, gives Cook a spell, but then Cook can move into the middle. He could move out to centre if he's needed as well. And then they've got the two middle forwards and then Sloan on the bench. And obviously Sloan is going to play sort of a roaming position there and not really take minutes off Cookie. So I feel like I could see some more time on the field, whether that's another 80-minute performance or not. I'm not quite sure, but it's quite tempting to have a look at someone like Cook, knowing that he could rack up 60 tackles and that's his GDS points and not really have any demerits, whereas someone like Grant could score a try and set one up and still come away with only a 40 points because he's missed his 4, 5, 6 tackles. So I am going with Grant just purely based on that upside, purely based on the enormity of the game against the Dogs. The Dogs haven't been great the last couple of weeks in general against teams. So I feel like Has could really exploit that a little bit more. But yeah, if someone's looking to go somewhere else, I wouldn't put it past them to look at maybe Damien Cook.
Yeah, I'm still a bit scarred by him. I think I've played him 2 or 3 times this season, and he's ended up in the centres in 2 of those games as well. And that's just poison for his GDS score. We've got Sif in the chat saying, how about JMK? Yeah, look, I love that. I think JMK's certainly been flying under the radar. Unfortunately, the Finns are sort of going backwards a little bit after the loss of Herbie Farnworth. They're certainly leaking a lot of points, but his scores haven't really suffered too much apart from a bit of a down one against the Cowboys a couple of weeks back. He's still having a crack at the try line from close out. And he's getting through his tackles and his run meters as well. So if you're looking to go against Harry Grant, you don't trust Damien Cook, I'd love the Jeremy Marshall-King shout as well. And your boys, mate, Melissa wants to know quickly about Wade Egan. Is he going to have a cracking match against the Titans? How much faith are you putting in your boys first of all, and then your number 9?
I speak about the Warriors a couple of times throughout the show. I've got a couple of notes about them, and I'm really worried about how they're going in general as a team. Particularly against bottom 8 sides at the moment. They're really struggling against those weaker sides. And obviously it's no shock that the moment Luke Metcalf was succumbed to injury, that team sort of took a nosedive based on their performance. So I'm a little bit hesitant to play any Warriors at all. Obviously the Titans have had some really good games over the last couple of weeks, but they've been touched up as well. So they'll want to bounce back there. For me, Egan, I'm just looking at him at the moment and probably not going to go near him. I am always concerned about his injury ability to be injured. He only lasted 13 minutes against the Titans last time out, and I think he ended up with a score of 8 or 9 points against them for GDS. So, yeah, I'm a little bit wary to play Wade Egan. I think there's plenty more upside in someone like Harry Grant, Damien Cook, or even that Jeremy Marshall-King in probably another massive game for the Dolphins. It's kind of, for them, it's a do or die each and every match they play now to get into that top 8 spot. So, yeah, I don't mind the Jeremy Marshall-King. I'd probably be fading Egan, though.
All right, mate, on to the middles. Payne Haas and Terrell May continue to be absolute studs in this position. There is one Yo named on a Panthers extended bench. Is he someone that comes into consideration for you if named in that 13 jersey an hour out from kickoff?
Yeah, he's one of 3 that I'm debating at the moment. So I do have Payne Haas and May, and they're probably 2 easy salary pods for me. I'm just going to load up on that salary and be happy with the sort of averaging around 70 points per game that they're giving, and then take the extra points on top of that. I'm also going to play White, and we'll talk about Naf White and the Roosters a little bit more. So that means that there's a bench spot available because I'm also playing a 3 edges, and I've got that final bench spot. And it's between 2 middles and an edge, and it's Tino versus Yo, and then Angus Crichton as well. So I'm going to play a couple of games here. I'm going to start Tino on my bench. If Yo gets named and he's starting at lock, then there probably is a pivot to him. I've got that flexibility. And if I'm just a little bit nervous, maybe he starts from the bench, he doesn't start on the field, I then might keep Tino or pivot to Angus Crichton, depending on how I feel and the points that I've got so far. So I'm going to play my cards pretty close to my chest with this one, just because I'm not sure where that's going to go. And the benefit is that we do have that bench spot that's got flexibility. So if anyone is tossing up between a couple of players, particularly if it's Isaiah Yeo, they do play Friday night, so it's nice and early. You can make that swap, that pivot pretty quickly. But then you've also got flexibility whether you want to bring in another hooker or an edge as well. So yeah, for me, I'm just going to stick with Tino, mainly based on the emotional hedge more than anything against the Warriors. The Titans back at home, I just think they have something to prove. The Warriors need to win, but they're struggling against those lower sort of ranked teams. And, we saw that last week against the Dragons, against a much depleted Dragons. We saw that a couple of weeks ago against the Knights. They're really struggling to get one up on those sort of teams where they should be really beating by 30 or 40. And again, Tino's numbers haven't been amazing this season, but it's probably an opportunity just to play safe a little bit, considering that I'm in that realm of that prize card. I just want to play a little bit safe where I can as well. He saw 53 minutes on the field last week coming back from injury, so hopefully those minutes increase a little bit as well, back to sort of his average around 60 minutes without the injury affected game. So if he can get that 60, I'd be happy with sort of a 45 to 50 from Tino. But then there's Angus Crichton as well that I'm really looking at on the edge. So I'm more than happy to listen to all names. But do you want to talk through, I think you're just going to go the three middles this week, is that right?
Yeah, I don't mind the Tino shout. The more you talk about it, we spoke a little bit about him today as well. Jermaine Jolliffe won't be lining up for the Titans after that injury. So that sort of opens up some big minutes for Tino and a couple of those other forwards. Jolliffe was getting sort of mid-60s, and he even had a 70-minute match as well. So, Tino keeps he'll just keep playing the best as he can for as long as he can until the end of the season. So he could step into that bigger minute role straight away with the loss of Jolliffe, and that will certainly reward coaches for doing so. So, yeah, I feel like I'll have Tino on one of my sides, but like you said, you're going to go safe in the competition that you're more likely to win a prize card in. And I think I'll just go Naf White in the Challenger competition, which is the one that I'm higher up in terms of prize card range. So I think, he's really shone for the Roosters and sort of filling gaps in that forward pack that had a bit of question marks over them at the start of this year after lost to a couple of those big boppers. But look, he's been really good over the past couple of months, and even through Origin and after Origin, when he had to have a lot of the workload himself due to a number of those forwards out. It could have been, every reason for him to sort of tail off a little bit and have less minutes and have less impact. But he just keeps playing some good footy every week, and he was rewarded with two tries last week and a nice 80-point match. But it's his base stats that's really impressive at the moment, and he's even now starting to add some of those attacking stats. He's not going to score 2 tries every week, but he's breaking tackles pretty regularly now. Another 6 tackle breaks this week just gone, and that's pretty handy for a middle forward who's on the field for 55 or so minutes. That's 18 points in tackle breaks. And, he's still making his 30 tackles. He's averaging about 150 run meters per week as well. They're playing against a pretty soft Eels pack. So there's every chance, he can crash over from close to the line or at least continue with those tackle breaks and offload numbers. So rather than him just being seen as someone that's fairly safe, he's now sort of moving into that range of being safe with a little bit of attacking upside as well, which is exactly what I'm looking for in that Challenger competition, where I want to make sure I can sort of lock in that 50 to 60 points pretty safely. And anyone who played him last week would have been laughing at that 80-point game.
Yeah, and I think for me, White really starting to push into that territory of almost a set and forget role in my game day squad side. I just feel like he's doing plenty with the ball. He like you said, those 30 plus tackles per game is 150 plus running meters, and then adds an average of 3 tackle breaks onto that as well, as base and power is sitting pretty nicely for kind of what we want from a middle. And as you said, he's got that attacking upside. In my notes, I put down that I feel like he stepped up and filled the Terrell May-sized hole that was left at
nice.
And if we could get some more minutes out of him, in the future, I think that he will just be an absolute goldmine for Game Day squad. So, yeah, I'm happy to continue running him until otherwise. So, yeah, for me, my middles this week are Haas, May and White, with the potential of Tino's in my side at the moment, with the potential to pivot to Yeo or maybe Angus Crichton, who I know you're pretty high on. But before we jump across there, I know some people would be looking at Aaron Clark as well. He has come back from, his down performance over the last few weeks, and he hit back with a 60-point game last week. The concerning thing for me, though, is way down on minutes in 47 minutes game. So I'm just a little bit concerned about playing him. His rolling 5-round average is only 48, which is well down from his 60 previously throughout the season. So, yeah, hopefully the Warriors will get heaps out of him on the weekend against the Titans. But for me, I'm just going to sit and wait to see whether those minutes return to something that we saw earlier in the season, closer to that 60 and getting closer to that 1 point per minute for me. So I'm actually going to sit Clark this week.
Yeah, he might be one of those middles that are feeling the effects of, a really long season. Obviously, the loss of a number of forwards in that pack. He's had to be the man that sort of step up with bigger minutes, a bigger role, more tackle numbers, more run meters. And, that can't be easy for a bloke of his size as well. So maybe he just might be feeling the effects. And it's a long season. It's a tough season for someone playing in the middle of his size as well. So, yeah, maybe just feeling the effects, and a week or two off would be probably good for him. But, probably not someone that is going in the direction that we want. We want to be getting on these forwards that maybe have had a bit of a break, or, are coming back after a slow return from injury and are starting to hit their straps again after feeling a little bit fresh and recovered. So, yeah, he's probably going the wrong direction for that. But a number of those other forwards we've mentioned, Tino and Naf White, I think they carry that little bit extra upside, and probably a little bit more dangerous close to the line as well, which we've seen previously. You've already alluded to a number of edge forwards, mate, particularly Angus Crichton. So we'll get to him in a moment. But are there any players that you think we should be locking in to our squads regardless of matchups? Obviously, this week we've got 3, huge finals-like matchups, and a couple of the players in those games feature on the screen here. Do we look beyond that, or do we just lock these players in regardless of the matchup? Can we do that in the edge forward position?
Look, I think we're going to do the same thing, and I think most coaches will do the same thing, and just picking Hudson Young and Preston again, despite that perceived tougher matchup. I don't necessarily think it's going to be a tougher matchup for both players. There's obviously a perception around that. The Panthers have actually allowed 41 GDS points to right side edges in the last 5, and then Storm 43 to right edges in the last 5. So there's definitely an opportunity there for both players to score points. And maybe some coaches will be a little bit scared by seeing the Storm and Panthers on the opposite side and maybe get off them. But yeah, for me, I think it's hard to go past probably the 2 close to highest averaging edges that we've got available for us. So I think for me, it's just going to be Young and Preston, and then it's going to come down to what I do with my bench. There's a player there that obviously returning from injury in Kalonga-Matangi, and I think we have differing opinions about him and what his performance is going to look like. For me, I'm actually really high on him, and I'm going to start him in my third edge spot. He's named at prop again for the first time in a month. Since his switch from edge to middle, he's averaged 72 minutes per game and a massive 66 in base and power. So, before his injury, everyone was playing him. Everyone had Kalonga-Matangi in their sides because of that massive step up between his edge average of 49 in base and power in that first 9 rounds. He's really stepped it up, and 17 extra points in base and power is huge. For me, the thing is, and that the argument comes around, what's the point of him playing? They're in a bit of a dead rubber there. That the Bunnings, as far as I can tell, they're mathematically out of the competition. I'm not a mathematician, so I'm happy to be wrong with that. If someone has some more information there, but I'm pretty sure the Bunnies are out. And I really don't see why Wayne Bennett would risk someone like Keon coming back if he wasn't fit, if they weren't confident in his performance, when they're really not playing for anything. I feel like that's a bit of a waste of talent and a waste of rehab opportunity if Keon Kalonga-Matangi isn't ready to go. So I think if we can get 70 minutes from him, 65 minutes from him in that middle, and we can get something close to his average base and power that we've had, in the last few weeks when he was healthy, I think I'm more than happy to play him in that edge spot. The Dragons haven't looked great. They've obviously got a number of injuries, based on last week's HIAs, etc. So, we look at the Dragons injury list and it was massive. I think one of the commentators went through it last week during the game, and there was about 20 blokes there that, are starters each and every week for the Dragons, and they're all out with injuries. So I feel like this is a bit of a matchup here where the Bunnies can get a little bit pride back, and hopefully that starts with Kalonga-Matangi up front.
Yeah, I just find it really baffling. They are mathematically out of the race for the top 8, unless 6 or 8 teams in front of them get done for salary cap rorting and
Don't say that.
they bump up 6 or 7 spots. So maybe Wayne Bennett knows something that we don't. But no, that's why it's just really baffling for me that, he returns. His return is even a week or two earlier than most athletes return from this sort of injury. It's that sort of high-grade syndesmosis injury that he did have surgery on, and a lot of players come back sort of a week or two after him. So his recovery time was even shorter. They're playing this match that doesn't mean too much. Effectively, they can't win the Spoon. I mean, mathematically, yes, they can, but that would mean the Titans below them would need to win all of their matches. The Knights would have to win all of theirs, and the Bunnies wouldn't win this week or the final round of the season after next week's bye. So it's very unlikely they get the Spoon, which means they're sort of in this dead space kind of area for the next 3 weeks where there's really not a lot to gain. And really, with him returning even sooner than expected, there's probably more so a greater risk than them actually achieving anything with him being back on the park. So Wayne Bennett has to know that, which, suggests that there's probably no likelihood of further complications for him. But for me, with so little to gain and probably, an increased likelihood of risk, it just really surprises me that he's been named on the field there to start. I wouldn't have been surprised maybe off the bench for 30 minutes if he, wanted to, Wayne wanted to have his leadership there for the younger blokes and just be that sort of mentor and still look after himself and not sort of overdo it with his normal workload of 60 or 70 minutes. But yeah, to start on the field and someone who can play the full 80 and will probably want to play the full 80, it just really surprises me. So look, I'm not going to start him in my main couple of teams, but he's such a quality player. If he gets anywhere near his normal minutes, he's going to put up plenty of points as that hardworking middle in the edge forward position. So I don't want to miss out on it. I want to be celebrating the Keon try, the inevitable try that he scores when everyone celebrates that in the Discord. So I want to feel part of that, but I don't have enough faith to put him in my main 2 teams. So differing opinions between you and I. You're pretty confident. I'm way down the other end of the spectrum there. So anyone in the chat have any thoughts?
Sorry, you touched on the bench of the Rabbitohs and potentially Klongamatangi going back there. Just looking at the bench, they've got Peter Mamazalis, they've got Brandon Smith, they've got Cody Walker, and then Fletcher, who's their only really second rower forward replacement. They've got 2 potential hookers there. I guess Brandon Smith can play through the middle as well, but I don't see where the minutes are going to get taken off Klongamatangi. I just don't see how that's possible unless, as you say, look, the benefit again is that the game's tomorrow night, so we've got every opportunity to make a change if he drops to the bench, if he drops out of the squad completely, and Wayne was just playing silly buggers. So, yeah, I'm happy to start him there. And if he starts in the side, I think he's actually going to have a big game, and I just don't see where the minutes are going to get taken away from him.
Yeah, fair enough, mate. I don't have the same sort of faith in you, but I guess we'll find out pretty soon. We'll actually get the 24-hour cut in about 5 or so minutes, so the conversation might even change in 5 minutes' time. Mate, someone I do want to talk about is Angus Crichton. We've mentioned his name a couple of times already. Look, he hasn't had a huge season. He's been sort of on the radar for a lot of coaches most weeks, but he's sort of that 5th, 6th, 7th, or 8th option. But still not really getting it done from a GDS perspective. Now, his numbers have increased a little bit since Sammy Walker has returned, but still only 3 tries this season compared to 11 last year when he had that full season with Sam Walker in the team. His points are going up. They're going the right direction. I think very soon something has to click between those 2, and it's not going to be far away from his big 70 or 80 point game. And looking like he's going to score a try whenever he touches the ball inside that red zone. Tallis Duncan played in that same position last weekend there against the Eels, and he ran 2 really nice lines late in that second half to score 2 tries and a nice 78-point game day squad score. So, the Roosters are a little bit more creative and effective closer to the line than the Rabbitohs. If they can get it done, then I'm backing Angus Crichton to get it done as well. And he's probably someone I'd be looking to throw a little bit of salary on if you're not quite sure who to add some salary on in addition to Payne Haas and Terrell May. I feel like this is an Angus Crichton week, and I'm really excited to have him in my team.
Yeah, the interesting thing about Crichton, as you said, is his numbers are going up, which is great to see, particularly with Sammy Walker there. Before Sammy Walker returned, Gus was averaging about 44 GDS points per game. Since his return, Angus has moved up to about a 52-point average in those last sort of 5 weeks or so. The interesting thing about that is Crichton's base and power average has actually stayed the same at 50 points per game. So there's means obviously that there's a little bit more attack, but there's also less demerits from Angus Crichton. So maybe there's something happening there at the Roosters in general around Sammy Walker being back and everyone tightening up their defense a little bit and playing just that little bit harder. So yeah, it's an interesting thing to look at. The Eels are allowing 50 odd points to left edges over the last 5 weeks. So there's definitely an opportunity there for Crichton to get that 50 and then maybe above and beyond if he can get over the line a couple of times.
Yeah, we got Skip in the chat here saying his dilemma is between Angus Crichton and Naf White. I think you might have just joined, Skip. We did speak about Naf White a little bit earlier. We're both pretty keen on him. He's adding a lot of stability to that middle forward position, particularly if Isaiah Yeo doesn't line up in that 13 jersey. I think Naf White is a pretty nice play there in the middle forward line. And I've also found room for Angus Crichton on the bench alongside the likes of Hudson Young, Preston and Eli Katoa. So I'm not going Koloa Matangi, but yeah, look, Skip, if you're choosing between White, my head probably says White for the safety. Be a bit of upside there for Angus Crichton, and I'm going to play both in matchup. Plenty to play for the Roosters.
Yeah, as soon as I saw that comment, the first thing I thought was the hard or soft taco ad where the little girl says, "Why not both?" And then she gets thrown around and celebrates. So, mate, why not both? Gus and White, both in the side. I like that shout. You did touch on Ali Katoa there. Give us some reasons why Ali Katoa is going to be your man.
Just because he's been really safe, even with the loss of Jerome Hughes. I would have thought, his scores would have taken a nosedive because he does get the occasional, the attacking stat, plenty of nice ball close to a line or against a small forward from Jerome Hughes. He's very clever at putting his big man through some space. But look, that hasn't really had any impact on his scores. Yeah, he's not finding the line, but his base points has been really nice. And he's had scores of 57, 58, and 59 in the last 3 matches. So if you want someone consistent, you're not going to find much more consistency than that. In those 3 matches, there's just the 1 try, and that was from a kick. So not even a line break and no try assists either. It's a tough matchup, like we've mentioned, against the Dogs. It'll probably be played a lot through the middle. It's probably going to be a match where the forwards will have to win the battle in order for points to be scored. So, look, I think he's going to get through plenty of work, and he'll be relied upon with the ball in his hands as well. He's one of their weapons in attack close to the line. So I don't think too much will change, and those mid-50-point scores, without any serious attack is certainly something that I'm looking for at this late in the season when I'm trying to get my hands on that prize card.
Yeah, mate, look, I don't mind Eli Katoa as well. Obviously, as you said, he's looked great without those attacking stats to go along with it, really. And no Hughes obviously hasn't impacted too much. My question mark is, are we happy with that sort of 55 to 60 as his ceiling? Because it seems like that's kind of the way it's looking at the moment, where Katoa is not really able to go above and beyond that. Although, it's just going to take one short ball on one of those unreal lines that he runs to get over the line. But the Dogs have also only allowed 1 score over 50 points to right edges over the last 5 weeks. So I think that's a good opportunity for them to defend quite well down their left side. So I'm just a little bit nervous about Katoa there without those attacking stats. But as you say, we play our fantasy pretty safe. And if we are happy with that 50-odd points from Katoa with a ceiling of 60, then, yeah, definitely look at playing him. I probably am just going to watch again for another week and see how he plays out. But a 55 in your squad, you can't really complain. Look, in saying that, we've probably spent way too long talking about forwards. That's almost half an hour between those 3 positions. Let's jump into the better half of the field and start with some halves. Is there any thought around sitting Cleary this week in a big matchup against your boys?
No, there's not. And maybe the emotional hedge plays a factor as well, where, if the Panthers get one over the milk, Cleary's probably going to be a big reason for that. So he's probably going to likely score plenty of GameDay squad fantasy points. But no, look, he's matchup proof. He's, the best fantasy point scoring half in the game and will be for a long time to come. And regardless of the matchup, you play him in your team. I even think he plays a little bit better in these big matches, where it looks really tough on paper when his team is desperate for a win, when the other team might be more favoured. In this case, the Panthers are favoured with the bookies at home there, but obviously the Raiders are above them on the ladder. It's not a cakewalk like an Eels or a Titans or a Knights end of season game, but that doesn't mean Cleary's scores will be any worse. So I feel like he'll get through plenty of runs. He likes to run the footy a lot more against these top sides, and the ball, he's at his creative and dangerous best. He'll break tackles. He'll get plenty of points through a lot of ball in Blaze Talangi's hands in some of those easier matches over the last few weeks, and getting some confidence through that left in the games on the line and against those bigger and tougher opponents. Nathan Cleary is the man that steps up, and he'll be demanding the ball in his hands. And I think he's going to be a big reason that the Panthers are going to go very deep this year. So yeah, look, not even a question or a second thought putting him into my team. It might just be for those people playing Classic and Contender. How much salary are they going to throw on him? Normally we say that, he's a massive salary pot. If you want to throw in a diamond or a platinum version on him in a Classic competition, then that could be a way to get a jump on the field. It might not be as simple as that sort of mindset this week against an outfit like the Raiders, but no, you can't go wrong with the Nathan Cleary card in your side. If you're someone that wants to sit him and he doesn't go well, then look, congratulations to you and good luck, and hopefully you won the prize money that weekend, because it's a very gutsy call and it paid off for you.
Yeah, I think if anyone is brave enough to play any other half over Cleary and fade him, I think if you send us through that screenshot of your team post-lockout, we might have to reward you for your bravery, because, I think you're a brave person fading Cleary. In fact, Skip is one of the bravest men I know, and he's never faded Cleary once. So it's probably a good option. Sif Kang has also joined us, and he said he's playing Chin as well. He's got JC, and he's got Wish again. He's got Wishart. I think he said the same thing last week, which is interesting there. I don't know about that, but anyway, let's move on. We've got a few others then on top of Cleary that we can look at. We've got Sammy Walker, we've got Jaden Campbell, Jamal Fogarty, potentially Izzy Katoa and DCE. For me, I'm actually going to fade Fogarty this week. Obviously a big matchup against the Panthers. And look, if you're looking at stats alone, the Panthers actually allow 57 GDS points to right side halves in the last 5 weeks, which is a pretty decent score, but I'm just a little bit nervous about Fogarty. We saw a couple of down games from him before that bye. There's just a little bit happening there at the Raiders, and maybe they're just giving him a little bit of a rest in game, giving Ethan Strange just a little bit more ball, because it seems like as Fogarty's numbers have dropped a little bit, then Ethan Strange has sort of increased his performance and his output. So yeah, just be interesting to see how he goes. Obviously, Fogarty's scores are based purely on really his ability to kick the ball as often as possible and get as many meters as possible, decent running game, and then adding to that base and power through his tackles, and then also his goal kicks, and then obviously that upside in tackle breaks and try assists. But it seems like Ethan Strange has been doing a little bit more. So yeah, I might just sit Fogarty this week. That means Jaden Campbell and Sammy Walker come into my side. And I think I've been pretty clear on my love for Sammy Walker over the last couple of weeks, despite your comments around potentially hurting or hindering Teddy. I think Walker's been unreal over the last couple of weeks, so probably over the last 5 weeks since he's been back. He's averaging 58.5 GDS points per game. He's now up against the Eels, and they've been pretty susceptible to that right side half across the last 5 games, allowing 51 points as well. So, look, the Eels out of the comp as well mathematically. They don't have a lot to play for except for pride. The Roosters, they're deep in that sort of top 8 battle. I think they're sitting 8th at the moment with plenty of opportunity to finish as high as 4th. So if things go their way, they could be in that top 4. And I think Sammy Walker is going to have a lot to do with that, as will Teddy, which we'll talk about in a minute. Is that someone that you're looking at as well now that you've had a look at him over the last couple of weeks? You're going to jump on the Sammy Walker train?
Yeah, mate. Had him last weekend as well. It was just the Teddy and Walker combination that hadn't been clicking over the previous few weeks, and we've finally seen some evidence that sort of put to bed over the last couple now. But it was the first 3 or 4 that coincided with some pretty poor scores from Teddy. Good to see that has been ironed out now. But no, look, Skip said in the chat that he's sort of debating between Fogarty or Walker, and For me, I found Walker pretty easily, Skip, and the reason for that is we just need to look at some of the base stats and the way that these players are accumulating their points. With Fogarty, he's only notching up about 40 run meters per match and not even getting one tackle break per game. JC on the flip side, 110 and 3.6 tackle breaks. Sammy Walker, 50 and 1.5. So both of those players offer far more upside in the running the ball department, and they're also a lot more creative across both sides of the field as well. Whereas, like you said, Ethan Strange has been doing a lot on the left, and Fogarty sort of just hangs out there on the right. So, yeah, look, I see plenty of upside in that Walker play this weekend. Look, the Roosters are on a roll, and they're just scoring points for fun at the moment. The Eels are playing for pride, but look, pride can only get you so far, particularly when you fall behind on the scoreboard. They have, surprised, and they beat the Bronx a couple of weeks ago, and they can put up some good halves of football against some teams. But look, the Roosters are on a roll. Walker's having, enjoying his footy. Teddy's getting amongst the points again, and I think you're a brave man to leave out Sammy Walker. I think he got about 33 or 36 points just from goal kicks alone last week or the week before that. So look, the Roosters are scoring plenty of tries. He's kicking goals. He's probably setting some of them up, and it won't be long before he starts finding a try or two as well. So yeah, I like the Walker play this week, particularly since Fogarty's got that matchup against the Panthers. I'm surprised that the Panthers are giving up 57 points, but look, Fogarty doesn't really accumulate points against those good teams through running and tackle breaks. It's more through, the kicking game and setting up multiple tries a game and kicking goals. I think points are going to be a bit harder to come by against the Panthers at home.
Yeah, look, before we move on, just a massive shout out to Lincoln over on TikTok. He has joined us over on our TikTok there. G'day, Lincoln. Thank you for joining us and for commenting. Look, for me, like I said, JC, he's just been unreal, hasn't he, this season? He's been so good. And he comes up against the Warriors. I've said it a couple of times. They're just not looking good. Although they've only limited right halves to 39 points on average over the last 5 rounds, I just feel like there's an opportunity for JC to just go massive, particularly at home, down the coast. Potentially a little bit of rain around, maybe. But if that rain clears, then it should be a big game. Look, JC's scoring massive points against everyone as well. It's not just against those bottom side teams. We obviously saw that massive score against the Panthers a few weeks ago. His rolling 5-round average is 75 GDS points. So that is just huge. And the Warriors really haven't improved at all since that game where the Titans touched them up, going back almost a month. It doesn't seem like they've really got themselves together, and Campbell scored 85 in that game. He also scored 64 against the Sharks last week, which was pretty much purely just base and power. So, yeah, for me, JC's a lock in my side. And look, just going back to Sif Kanga's comment about Wishart, I probably should have had a little bit of faith. He has faith, lol. But, yeah, actually looking at his stats, they're not too bad. He comes up against the Bulldogs, and they're averaging 52.5 to that side of the field in the halves. And JC himself, Wishart himself has increased his average since starting and in the halves by 21 points. So he's averaging almost 50 himself. So, yeah, maybe it's not a bad option after all, and could be a massive pod that might play off. So, yeah, Sif, I apologise, mate, for calling you out live. I take it back. Maybe that is a great option at the end of the day. So love the research. Good on you, Sif.
And we've got a question here from Ryan P as well about Tommy Dearden. Mate, I'm going to talk a bit about Scotty Drinkwater later on, and the similar reason for not having any love for Tom Dearden is, look, the Cowboys are just struggling away from home. They're playing some great footy at home up there in Queensland, North Queensland. But the moment they leave our borders and have to venture south, he's really struggled alongside the rest of the Cowboys. So, yeah, when Tommy Dearden and Scott Drinkwater are lining up there in North Queensland, definitely look at plugging them into a team. But I can't do it when they're playing in New South Wales. Their record, I think, is 2 wins and 9 losses away from home, which is not good showing, and certainly a reason why they're not scoring good fantasy points away from home either. So we've got plenty of good options this weekend. Tommy Dearden not on the radar, mate. But look, if your gut's telling you that he's a play this weekend, we've obviously seen what he can do in the State of Origin arena. He can certainly do that, on his day. Dill, centres are looking a little bit different. Obviously, there with no Herbie Farnworth for the 3rd or 4th week in a row, but have we got a new Herbie me through Adam Doueihi.
Yeah, I think we do. Adam Doueihi moving to the halves has been just a bit of a revelation at the Tigers, hasn't he? The last 2 weeks he's featured in the halves. He's scored 91 and then 76. And that's come about through 14 combined tackle breaks in the last 2 weeks. That is massive. Obviously, he loves to run the ball. He's got the goal kicking as well. He's averaged almost 400 kicking meters in those 2 games in the halves, and then 130 run meters on top of that. So there's some unreal base and power stats to really pump up your game. And then, look, he hasn't had a massive try assist contribution so far either. So there's upside remaining there as well. If he can continue with that base and power and then potentially increase that try assist opportunity from just that one over the past 2 games, I think he's going to be a massive inclusion in most people's side this week for the centre. As you said, the Cowboys horrible at travelling. Go down to Leichhardt, massive game at Leichhardt against the Tigers. And in fact, I will be down there supporting the Tigers as well. I feel like a little bit of a traitor going against the Cowboys, but going down with one of my mates who's a massive Tigers fan. So it should be a bit of fun. And I'd love to cheer on Doueihi to a massive GDS score of 100 plus to really get my classic side sorted.
There you go, everyone. Make sure you've got an Adam Doueihi in your team. Steele's going to make sure that he raises that bat once again. Yeah, look, mate, he just makes things happen, doesn't he, when the footy's in his hand? It sort of shows just how much of a waste he is playing out there in the centres when he's only, really contributing when the ball gets 2 out from the sideline there. But when he's playing with the 7 on his back, he's everywhere. He's getting the footy just about, a couple of times every single set. And he looks like he's just that natural half. And he should have been playing there all season. And I think the Tigers might have had a bit of a better season and much closer to finals footy had he been in that jersey a little bit sooner. But look, we can play him out of position in our centres. Doueihi and Farnworth combination would have been amazing for the rest of the season. But what that means is we need to find one more centre to pair alongside Adam Doueihi if we are going Adam Doueihi, which you and I both are, and surely many others are. For me, it comes down to 2 players. I don't mind, Timoko, Nick Meaney, Stephen Crichton have all got big scores in them. All got very tough matchups. We've spoken about their opponents already this week. But for me, it's Kotoni Staggs and Roger Tuivasa-Sheck. I think I might just find 2 teams to play Staggs in, and the other 2 teams that are run out this weekend, I'll have Roger Tuivasa-Sheck. I think the stats are sort of suggesting Roger Tuivasa-Sheck is more likely to not only rack up the base points there against the Titans on the Gold Coast, but also probably find the try line 2 or 3 times. Wouldn't surprise. But look, Kotoni Staggs and the Bronx have clicked into another gear, even with the loss of Mam and Reynolds. It's sort of unlocked Reece Walsh, hasn't it? And Kotoni Staggs is playing some unreal footy there on the right-hand side as well. They're on a roll. They've got the Knights who are licking their wounds, probably already thinking about their end-of-season trip to Bali. And, it's these types of matches where Staggs, a bit of that flat-track bully, he'll beat up on that poor opposition and find a bag or 2. And, it's just really tough to split. So I'm running out 4 teams. It's pretty easy to go 2 and 2, but gun to your head, who are you picking in that second centre spot and why?
Yeah, I had the same sort of debate, and I've gone between the both of them. I've landed on RTS, and I'm still not 100% certain because I do still have concerns over that whole Warriors side. But as you said, the last couple of weeks against the Titans, they've, over the last 5 weeks, really, they've allowed 65 to left wingers. The last 2 weeks, AJ scored 72.5 with 2 tries. And then Ronnie last week scored 84.5 with 2 tries as well. So I think for me that defense down the left side of the right side of the Titans defense is pretty poor. And Roger Tuivasa-Sheck is someone that can really carve them up there, whether it's with his footwork or with his speed. I do love RTS in general anyway, outside of his attacking ability, because of his base and power. He loves to have a run with the footy on the first, second, third, fourth hit up. And a few times in that game last week, he took 2 or 3 hit ups in one set against the Dragons just to give his forwards a bit of a break. So I don't mind those meters from RTS there. And then anytime he's running at the line, there's always that opportunity of a tackle break or a line break just based on his footwork. So for me, I'm pretty happy to run with RTS, knowing that there's that potential upside of 2 or even 3 tries, as you said. But yeah, Staggs looks like a really good option as well. up against the Knights. And the Broncos, as you said, they were humming last week against the Dolphins. Walshy came in and had probably one of his best games of the season, if not his best games. Considering they lost both their starting halves, I think they filled the role quite well with the combination of Hunt and Walters, and then that combination outside of that with Walsh into Staggs, I think was quite nice. And over the last 5 weeks, the Knights have just been leaking points to right centres as well, allowing an average of 56. Staggs has also actually increased his output. He's averaging 58 over the last 5 weeks, which is 14 points more compared to his previous 13 games. So something's clicking there for the Broncos. Probably a really good time for that to happen, considering so many outs. So, yeah, for me, I'll be doing the same thing. 2 teams will have Staggs, 2 teams will have Roger. I just think for my main team, like you said, gun to your head, I'm going to run with Roger in my classic side, just with that potential upside. I still feel like I'll get 40-odd points out of him, even if it doesn't cross the line, but there's definitely upside there.
Yeah, beautiful. The only worry is the Knights have Old Boys Day, and in the past they certainly get up for that. But look, this Knights team is looking very different to the Knights of old. So I think it'll be very difficult for them to get a win up there over the Bronx. But even if they do fight for half a game of footy or for 60 minutes, the Bronx forward pack is probably just going to roll over the top, and that's where blokes like Walsh and then hopefully Staggs as well are going to profit there as well. So, yeah, look, the Knights do have a little bit to play for this week. We saw the Cowboys absolutely towel them up in North Queensland. They simply didn't want to be there, did they? But back at home for Old Boys Day, they are expected to play some decent footy. But, yeah, the Bronx have way more to play for. Mate, let's jump into the wingers now. And normally we'd probably say take a peek out of Kiraz, To'o, Lomax. Gee, they've got some pretty tough matchups this week, and the stats don't read well for either of them, do they? Where are we going this week for wingers?
Yeah, I'm really not confident in my 2 picks at the moment. I'm still going with Kiraz and To'o combination, but I'm not sure about Kiraz at all. The question marks are all over Kiraz, whether he plays right or left. With Tuala and Tracy back in the side, we saw obviously that change last week, and Kiraz was running out in the 1, but he was playing on the left wing, I believe, with Tuala playing on the right. So hopefully we know that sort of just before the game kicks off, we can have an idea of where he's playing. Either way, though, the Storm are only allowing 35-odd points to each side, right or left wing. So they've really tightened up their defence. I know earlier in the season we're saying the Storm really were leaking points down the wing side of the left wing side of the field, but that's sort of changed now. So I am a little bit concerned about Kiraz. He's only gone over 50 points once, and he's got a 3-round rolling average in the last 5 weeks. Sorry, he's only gone over 50 once. His 3-round rolling average is only 37, and that's well below his season average. We know, we've seen a lot better from Kiraz. We've probably seen a lot better from the Bulldogs as well. I know they had that one good game against the Warriors a couple of weeks ago, but outside of that, they haven't really had it click together, and it might be that there's been a number of changes and sort of blokes dropping in and out of the side. But yeah, Raz is the one that I've got question marks all over. And if there's someone better that you can convince me otherwise, I'd be more than happy to look to swap him. In terms of To'o, up against the Raiders, they've been allowing 43 to right wingers over the last 5 weeks. So there's a little bit more upside there for To'o. Should be a cracker of a game as well. Obviously, potential for a top of the table sort of finish, even for the Panthers as well. And if the Raiders are able to win, they sort of can potentially be 4 points clear at the top. So I think it's got a lot to play for in that game. Before the bye, the Raiders, as I said, were allowing 43 to right wingers. And some of those notable scores were Lomax with 60 and Dom Young with 52. And we know that To'o just loves eating up meters. He loves tackle breaking. And over the last 3 matches, he's averaged 200 meters and 7 tackle breaks per game. So if we see something like that again, the try scoring sort of dried up from To'o, as we spoke about the last couple of weeks. But if he continues that sort of base and power output, I'm pretty happy to lock him in the side with that potential of 40 points as his floor, and then anything above that as a good option. In a week where there's not that many options outside of that, you've got someone like Lomax who's up against the Roosters, and we're just absolutely all over the Roosters this week. They're only been allowing 21.5 points over the last 5 weeks to right wingers, excuse me. So yeah, Lomax is probably a massive fade for me. Nawaka Nituazi is probably also someone that I'm looking at fading, just because I think there's too many other good players that I'm playing in the Roosters, and I really don't want to load up on too many Roosters just in case. So, yeah, for me at the moment, it's Karaz and Toto, but I'm happy to be convinced otherwise.
You know what happens when we load up one team? I think it was Manly last week, wasn't it? It's probably happened 4, 5, 6 times this season that we're so confident on one team, absolutely putting the cleaners through another. So we've got 4 or 5 of their backs and a couple of edge forwards or whatever, and it does not go the way that we were intending.
Not at all.
But yeah, mate, let me convince you on Taylor May. Whether you like the bloke or not, he's putting together some pretty good fantasy numbers. He's only played the 4 games this season. He's had 2 really good games, 2 down games. Those 2 down games were against the Bulldogs and the Panthers. So read into that what you will. He just had that massive game the weekend just gone and beat up the Gold Coast Titans a month ago as well. So a bit of a flat track bully like the rest of the Tigers players that score points. But what I like about him this week is that they've got that matchup against the Cowboys. We know that the Cowboys are allergic to traveling. They're a completely different outfit away from home. So I'm expecting that bad version of the Cowboys there at Leichhardt on a hopefully beautiful sunny Sunday afternoon for you and Benny down there on the weekend. But look, I'm expecting Taylor May's run of good scores to continue. He's averaging 130 metres, 4.5 tackle breaks, and he scored those 2 tries in 4 games. The Cows are giving up only 40 points to those left centres in the past 5, which is a bit meh. But look, they're not travelling well. The Tigers can definitely beat them up, and Taylor May just keeps asking questions of the opposition. If they're not concentrating when he's running the ball at them, he'll beat him with a tackle break or, put his winger over as well. He's been pretty creative with a couple of try assists. I just like a bit of upside here. He's sort of got that body shape of a Brian Toto or a Karaz. He can break tackles. He can score tries. He can throw offloads. He's just got that much better matchup compared to any of those other blokes that we have mentioned. So, look, I don't mind a Taylor May play this weekend. The numbers for Lomax are very poor, what the Roosters are giving up. And this is the type of match where Lomax probably tries too much alongside Mitchy Moses there, where he has too many errors, flicking the ball over the sideline or knocking on from some bombs in the air. So, yeah, I'm putting a line through Zach Lomax. Karaz has not, given us a lot of good things to cheer about over the past month. There's a line through him. So, for me, it's Taylor May and the best of a bad bunch. Maybe Brian Toto is a bit of an emotional hedge. But I don't mind those 2 boys racking up some tackle breaks and maybe finding the try line as well. What do you think about Taylor May?
Yeah, I like it, actually. I like those numbers. Particularly the base and power stats there that you talked about in terms of the run meters, the tackles, the tackle breaks from Taylor May, and then that opportunity outside of tries and try assists. Look, like you said, Sunday afternoon, it'll be a cracker of a game. Maybe I play him in, knowing that I can cheer him on as well to get a couple of balls from Dewey. So Dewey goes the try assist, Taylor May goes the try. Yeah, I'd love to see that. So, yeah, maybe you've convinced me. Look, one thing that Mel's trying to convince me is that I can't fade all of the wingers. I know that's the case, and I know I'm going to have to flip a coin at some point, but I feel like Stu may have given us a really good option there in Taylor May, considering we don't have someone like Ronnie or Katoa there as well from the Sharks. So I might be pretty happy to play Taylor May. Thanks for that, mate. Let's move on to the fullbacks. And Joey, what a group of fullbacks that we have once again. Just on the screen there, we've got 6 genuine options. And I could probably play any of them in my side. I don't really think there's too many downsides to most, except maybe Drinky, which we've already touched on. Who's your first one that you are locked and loaded on? You're ranked number 1 fullback this week, mate.
It's got to be Mr. Reliable, James Tedesco. Very safe play with plenty of upside. We've spoken a lot about the Roosters already, and Sammy Walker and that combination together that's finally started to click. Look, I think Teddy's going to be one of the highest GDS point scorers this week, or particularly in the fullbacks as well, probably top 2 at a minimum. So, yeah, plenty of safety in terms of floor through his tackle breaks, his run meters, and just so much upside against the Eels that don't have a lot to play for other than pride. And if the Roosters get clicking and their middle forwards a bit bashing up the Eels middle forwards, the backs are going to have a bit of a field day, and Teddy will keep breaking tackles. Teddy will keep putting blokes over, and he'll keep scoring tries himself. So rather than going that big upside play, like we were all over Reece Walsh last week, and we could see a big game from him at fullback, and that's why a lot of coaches played him. I can see him having a similar game this week. I just don't see it coming as easily, despite the matchup. yeah, I just feel a bit more safety and upside in James Tedesco, but it wouldn't surprise someone like Reece Walsh to go big. Are you going a big ton back-to-back for Reece Walsh?
Yes, please. Yes, I would love that. Reece Walsh, probably my second ranked fullback at the moment. As you said, up against the Knights. And obviously, we just saw Drinky put them to the cleaners. We also saw Reece Lightning have a cracker of a game against the Dolphins last week in that Battle of Brisbane, scoring 110 points, lining up against the Knights, who've really struggled over the last few weeks. And they struggled to even score a point against the Cowboys. It obviously came late in the second half where they were able to cross the line. Over the last 5 weeks, the Knights have allowed an average of 60 GDS points to fullbacks. And so obviously that includes Drinky's 118. Weeks has also got a 58 in there as well in that rolling 5-round average. So hopefully Walsh can really step up again for the Broncos and keep their top 4 hopes alive. They're sort of sitting 5th at the moment, and 5th or 6th at the moment, and really could knock out potentially the Warriors or another team that might have a little bit of a stumble like the Bulldogs in the last couple of games. The benefit as well for Walsh is that he's got the kicking duties off the tee. So we know that he's going to get a few extra points and go up by 3s, knowing that Reynolds and Mam are not in the side. So I think that's just another opportunity for him to score big. And hopefully it's the Teddy Walsh combination where we can see a couple of tons this week instead of the Walsh Drinky combination.
Mate, 250 run meters for Reece Walsh, 125 the week before and 81 the week prior. That no Reynolds, no Mam has really unlocked Reece Walsh there. So 12 tackle breaks in that last match, and he had 12 in the month prior. So yeah, absolute stud this week against that depleted Knights team. So I love those two. But look, the third option at fullback, it's got me sort of scratching my head a little bit here. My big question is, are Manly shot? Look, they've just lost Garrick. They're spiraling out of finals contention super quick. We spoke last week about their inability to score points, but I sort of alluded to the fact that it's got to click eventually, and Turbo and DC are just too good and too experienced to not get things happening for the Sea Eagles this close from finals. But look, they looked really poor in what was a really winnable game against the Tigers, and they've only scored 32 points in their last month of footy. So eight points per match over the last month does not make for good reading when you've got blokes like Turbo at fullback. So really, he probably needs to score a try or two for a big score, but that's just looking unlikely given how bad that Manly attack is.
Yeah.
The big reason that I don't want to fade him is because of the success fullbacks are having against the Dolphins of late, with Teddy and Reece Walsh both, going absolutely nuclear in those past 2 weeks. So I don't want to play Turbo, but I just feel like everything is set up for a massive Turbo game. Am I being silly here, or is that the right way to go?
Yeah, look, I'm in exactly the same boat. I'm playing Turbo as well, but I'm nervous because, like you said, the scoring woes just continue scoring those 12 points last week, and we talked about their inability to score when I spoke about Garrick last week as a potential fade. As a result, their inability to score points means there's very few attacking stats across the board for any Seagulls player. But I think with that comes some upside. Turbo's 48 GDS points last week only came from 200 running meters and 8 tackle breaks. 8 tackle breaks is unreal, by the way. But I mean, he's only finishing on 48 points. Without an attacking stat to his name, I feel like there's just such a good opportunity for him to step up again and just go to that next level with the side sort of flailing around a little bit just below the top 8 and trying to make it in against that Dolphins side that, like as you said, they've allowed a combined 213 GDS points in the last 2 weeks to Teddy and Walsh. So Turbo's in the same league as Teddy and Walsh. Usually we talk about fullbacks and the disparity between fullbacks and their ability to score points, but I think he's in exactly the same league as those two, so he could return some serious scores in this one, and hopefully he can get some attacking stats and do the job, which means that we're missing out on a number of players. We've already spoken about fading Drinkwater, even though that the Tigers allow a decent amount of points to fullbacks. The other one we're fading is Dylan Edwards. How do you feel about fading Dylan Edwards? We did that last week, yet he put on a decent score.
Yeah, I think you've got some numbers that support this, don't you? The Raiders are restricting fullbacks to 23.6 points over the last 5 weeks, and that's pretty telling. The fullback position is a position where points can be scored, backing up through the middle, scoring easy try into the posts, or, sweeping out the back and putting a man over or even creating the overlap, going through and scoring a try yourself. And those numbers are sort of just suggesting that the Raiders aren't allowing that to happen with the same ease that a lot of other clubs are. So, look, those numbers in itself are really putting me off Edwards and really saying, pick Tommy Turbo for a massive game here against the Finns. Edwards has got the runs on the board. He's been doing it all season long. He's probably, quote unquote, the safe start, but 23.6 points is certainly not something you want to be riding home about. And it wouldn't surprise if it's a tough battle. Cleary's still going to notch up his points through runs and kicks and that sort of thing. Edwards will probably still get through his 150 to 200 run meters, but there might not be a lot of, a heap of tackle breaks and a lot of room when he's running to put blokes through the space. So, I think this is one week where we can look past Dylan Edwards, but maybe playing him in one team just in case is the way to go. And I think I will be doing that because he's just too good. And that Penrith side is just too good. He could easily score, a try or two in a 50 or a 60-point game. It's just, you got to look at the numbers every now and then, and the numbers are really telling us to look somewhere else.
Yeah, I agree. Look, Michael Cozzi, he's late to the party. Hey, lads, I'm extremely late to the party and we'll have to watch later, but is Drinkwater a good pick this week? We've spoken about Drinky quite a few times and we've suggested that maybe he isn't, even though the Tigers do allow quite a few points to fullbacks. We're just are concerned about the Cowboys travelling. Also, just on Sif Kanga's option of Fuller up against the Seagulls this week. Look, the Seagulls have averaged 35 points to fullbacks in the last 4 weeks. I'm just going to throw out the 4 names that have played the Seagulls and then the points, and you tell me who you think scored these points. Dream Buller, KO Weeks, James Tedesco, and Connor Tracy. And I've got scores in no particular order of 2.7, 31.4, 35.3, and 72.7 against the Seagulls. Who do you think scored that top score?
Dream Buller.
It was Connor Tracy. Scored 72 points.
Who scored
against
2 points?
Seagulls. KO Week scored 2.7 in round 23.
Goodness
so
me.
If those numbers are scaring you a little bit, Sif, I potentially would be looking elsewhere, not on Fuller potentially. And also just 2 last bits of
I got one more too.
To Brodown Showdown. Klongmatangi is still in the side. The 24-hour mail came through and they've just cut the bottom 3 players, so everyone's still 1 to 22 or whatever it is at the moment. So Klongmatangi is still definitely in the side, and Ryan Pappenhausen, who we didn't even talk about in the fullbacks list, is on track to come back from that concussion Friday night, and play. So he's an option as well for anyone keen on Ryan Pappenhausen.
Wow, big, nice.
Yeah.
Just quickly, Sif Kanga, Dill, have you got numbers in front of you? What bench utilities are averaging against Manly? Because that's where Trey Fuller is lined up at the moment. There may be a late swap with Hammer to the centres and Fuller to fullback, but at the moment, Sif, he is named at number 14. In case you missed, just in case you get caught out there, you probably don't want to be playing a bench utility in your fullback spot. Great start if he is lining up in that fullback position, but I wouldn't have him there right at the moment just in case, but I just thought I'd mention that before you got caught short. Righto, Dill, here are our round 25 squads. These are our prize card hunt squads. A couple of differences between you and I. I might have tempted you into looking for a Taylor May starting your wingers over Jacob Carraz. You might have talked me into a Roger Tuivasa-Sheck over Katoni Staggs, but those are our 2 differences in the back line at the moment. I don't know why Scotty Drinkwater is in my team at the moment. We've mentioned a few times that he won't be lining up in my team. So someone's pulled a bit of a Swifty there. And I've got Angus Crichton and you've got Tino Fa'asuamala-Awe. But I feel like there could be a plethora of changes between now and when those boys all run out.
As always, I do my best to try and post teams when they're named an hour before over on the Discord. So if you're not on the Game Day Squad Discord, make sure you check that out so you can keep up to date with the latest team news. Let's jump across to our favourite part of the show, and it is Brodown Showdown, although it's now becoming maybe my least favourite part of the show. I just cannot get it right, and Stu is just dominating. I think that is well and above. There's no way for me to come back at all, even if we played double points for the last 3 weeks, unfortunately. Okay, we can play triple, sure. I'm happy to do that. Look, so as always, if you commented Stu, to win, you have got yourself into the wheel to potentially win some cards. And look, I will tell you now that you definitely should get on board because there were only 4 people that commented Stu last week. So you've got a 25% chance of winning some decent cards. I know we gave away a Mitch Barnett Diamond last week from a rare pack. So let's spin that wheel and see who is lucky this week. Let's go. It's coming around, and it is friend of the show, Jay Boney.
Jay Boney, well done, mate.
Good on you, mate. Well done. Let's jump across and let's get this rare pack happening. So we're going to open a rare pack here. Hopefully you can see that on screen.
Yep, got it.
Perfect. Good luck, John. Hopefully we can come away with a few decent cards for you. All right, are we going to do the same thing we did last week and give them all 3 now that
we are, mate? Yeah, all 3 to Jay Boney.
Wrapped it up. Alrighty, let's start here. We've got a Harry Grant gold. Perfect timing for a classic or contender side there. Harry Grant gold should be highly played this week, so that could be a salary pod for sure. In the middle, we've got a Chen Kum Tongs, obviously a young bloke over at Seagulls. He could get some decent minutes into the next season potentially, so keep an eye on him. And then finishing off this pack, we have a Halasima gold, who is obviously an up-and-comer at the Warriors who's playing some unreal footy at the moment. So they are a decent pack there. Jay Boney, make sure you get in contact with one of us. You can do that on Discord, on Instagram, or on a YouTube, however you like. We can organise those trades for you. Thanks very much for commenting, mate. Well done. What a great pack.
Huge. A couple of great cards there. Well done, mate. And thanks for the continued support. Right, Adil, Brodown Showdown for round 25. We're picking through the centre, the fullback, and the half position. As always, if you think I am going to win, make sure you comment Stu in the YouTube video, either right now or once it's gone live. If you're listening on Spotify, you can comment there as well. Jump over to YouTube and get your entry in. Dill's selections are Adam Dewey, Reece Walsh, and Nathan Cleary. Gee, they look like some red-hot selections. Against Mike, Tony Staggs, James Tedesco, and Sammy Walker. So get your tips in. Make sure you're commenting either Dill or Stu. Only 4 people got it right last week. And John Boney was able to collect some pretty handy cards there. Dill, I don't normally vote in this, but am I allowed to vote again this week?
Mate, only if you're voting for me. I think you're allowed to.
I think you have a red-hot chance at 3-0 this week.
Unreal.
Yep, Skip. Good comment there from Skip. Didn't even need to look at Stu's picks. He just saw Dill's and thought, yep, no one is beating Dill this week. We will see. Thanks, everyone. Make sure you keep getting those comments in. Well, Dill, that's it for another live show. And the amount of live shows remaining are slowly trickling down, and we do not have many remaining. Remember, everyone, there is still plenty of opportunities to claim some cash and pack prizes each and every week. If you haven't yet signed up or you want to get some friends involved for the last few weeks of the season, make sure they download the app or go on the website, sign up using the code FBRL25 for 3 9-player common packs, about $21 worth of packs to get their squad started. You can still certainly win some awesome cash and pack prizes each and every week. Good luck to everyone still in the hunt for some end-of-season prizes, or anyone still trying to get some packs or some cash to build out their squads in preparation for next season. Thank you very much once again, Dill. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in with your comments and your support as always. Melissa, before we sign off, is there a chance of a quick YouTube subscription number? Anyone sitting here in the comments right now, if you haven't already done so, click that subscribe button. We want to see those 3 digits before the end of the season. Thank you very much, everyone. Good luck this week. Thanks, Dill.
Just before we sign off, don't forget to check out our Instagram and TikTok. We once again will be teasing a little update announcement that will be happening next week. And look, if you are following the show, we will do it live on the show as well. So next week, make sure that you are here for a massive announcement about the Fantasy Bros and the future of the Fantasy Bros. Have a wonderful week. Good luck in round 25. Hope you come away with a victory. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Stu. Have a good one.